Hi, Mike Harrell here from West Marine, and today we're here to talk about how to select a correct kayak paddle. Now, while selecting a paddle is mainly a matter of paddling style and a matter of personal preference, there are some key guidelines to go over to select the correct paddle for best performance, and we'll go over those guidelines today. Kayak paddles are typically measured in centimeters, ranging from 210 centimeters to 250 centimeters, which is the equivalent of 6 feet 10 inches to 8 feet 2 inches. A smaller, less experienced, lighter weight paddler will typically select a smaller paddle to start out, and a larger, heavier, more experienced paddler will typically move up to a longer shaft up to 250 centimeters, depending on what kind of paddling style that they're going to be doing. And also, a larger paddler will typically use a larger blade so they can have more power to actually propel their weight through the water. When selecting a paddle, it's also important to note the type of kayak that you'll be paddling. Sit inside kayak typically requires a shorter paddle, while a sit on top kayak will require a little bit of a longer paddle because you're sitting a little bit further off of the water. You also want to take into account that you have to keep your proper paddling form, so select a kayak paddle that reaches the water easily from where you're sitting while keeping your proper paddle form and your knuckles not hitting the deck, and you're easily able to reach outside the gunnels. Next, let's talk a little bit about shaft diameter when selecting a kayak paddle. Our West Marine composite paddle we have here has a fiberglass shaft, which makes this paddle much more lightweight than an aluminum shaft, and it also does not get near as cold when paddling in cold water as an aluminum shaft would. It also has an oval grip on it, which allows you to paddle for longer with being fatigued less. While most paddles are fixed length, there are other paddles that also offer adjustable ferrules to allow you to adjust the paddle size up to 10 centimeters usually. So a paddle like this bending branches paddle here has an adjustable ferrule. It allows you to untwist, adjust the size that you want for what paddling style or which boat you're paddling, and readjust, and now you have a paddle that can go anywhere from 230 centimeters, in this case up to 240 centimeters. If you're backpacking or trying to paddle in remote locations, it may be a good idea to select a 4-piece kayak paddle like the one we have here from Advanced Elements, whereas this one, the blade actually separates from the shaft, allowing you to have a very compact design that can easily fit into a backpack. One other thing to consider when selecting a kayak paddle is a straight shaft versus a bent shaft. While most kayak paddles have a straight shaft, paddles like this Adventure Technologies fish stick paddle have a bent shaft, allowing your wrist to sit at slightly less of an angle, which will result in less fatigue when paddling long distances. Most kayak paddles come standard with drip rings, such as this Adventure Technology Quest paddle, and this prevents water from coming off the blade and running down the shaft and getting into your kayak or on top of yourself. Another great feature about this paddle from Adventure Technologies is the ability to let you feather the blade. On this paddle, you can feather the blade up to 75 degrees, which allows the paddle that's not in the water to slice better through a headwind, which will minimize drag. On a long paddle, minimizing that drag will go a long ways. While very basic paddles have a symmetrical blade, most paddles have an asymmetrical blade, such as this paddle from Adventure Technology, which allows you to have a larger surface area of the blade, which will give you more power when coming through the water. A symmetrical paddle would be okay for a very high level of entry if you were paddling from this angle, while an asymmetrical paddle is better for a low angle of entry, which is typically what most of us paddle. When selecting a blade type, consider one that has a dihedral angle. The dihedral angle on the tip of the paddle will give you more even water distribution, which will give you less flutter and a more solid and stable stroke through the water. This particular paddle features a rib down the blade, which adds stability to your stroke. Kayak paddle blades are typically made out of wood, carbon, fiberglass, or a composite material. Choose a paddle such as this bending branches paddle that actually has a reinforced edge if you plan on coming in contact with any foreign objects while paddling. If you plan on doing a long paddling session, choose a blade that's made out of carbon or composite for a lighter weight paddle, which will minimize fatigue. When selecting a paddle for touring, it's important to get a paddle that has a high visibility blade such as orange or yellow, like this bending branches paddle, that allows you to be seen in a long distance. Another cool feature about this paddle is the notch cut into the blade, which is great for anglers because if they get their line stuck on the bow of their kayak or in a tree, it allows them to stay in the seated position while still being able to retrieve their line. Most leisurely paddlers prefer a very low angle of entry into the water with their kayak paddle, which lends towards a larger blade with a longer shaft, such as this paddle here. For someone looking for a more nimble, quicker paddle, they should select something like this Quest paddle from Adventure Technologies, which will allow them to be more maneuverable and quicker in the water. We hope this video has helped you determine which kayak paddle is right for you. For more information, visit westmarine.com.